What's up and welcome to another live stream with Gizmo Slip Tech, and this is Hero. Woo! Welcome back to another live stream. We are doing the Acer Predator Helios Neo 16 today, and we are going to talk about all kinds of stuff. We're going to do a value comparison against the competition to start with. We've got 3 or 4 laptops we're going to compare with, as well as looking at the different versions of the Neo 16 that you can buy. So looking at the different GPU, CPU, and display options. Then we're going to unbox the laptop, check the power adapter out. We're going to check the quality control of the laptop, look at see if there's anything broken on the laptop. We're going to do a flex test. We're going to disassemble the laptop and check for upgradability, analyze and review the ports, check the webcam quality. I don't think this has Windows Hello on it, but if it does, we'll check that. Test the keyboard, mouse, the display, the speakers. We have a decibel meter. We're going to be testing how loud the speakers get. We're going to test how loud the fans are in different fan profiles. And then we're going to do some Cinebench R23 and TimeSpy testing for our synthetic tests. And then we're going to go into a whole suite of video game testing. This is one of the most interesting laptops that has come out this year so far, at least in theory. I think it's priced maybe a little bit high against competition. Now, if you are interested in checking out and looking for the best possible laptop money can buy for your dollar, I highly recommend checking out the laptop list, which is linked in the description down below. Now, there are not only summaries of each of the laptops, there's also benchmarks or estimated benchmarks. Estimations are rounded to the 100 value. So this is like an estimated value most likely, but there are benchmark sources here. If you're curious whether it's an estimated score, it is an estimated score. You can see right there, but there are links to the actual sources for the laptops that have legitimate data. We always do check and look for legitimate data, so you can find reviews that way. Now, if you click on the expand button here, you can get pictures and other information, as well as see the benchmark data right here as well. Now, I've conveniently located all of the top deals here that I think are the most interesting and best value for your money. And one column I'd highly recommend paying attention to is the CPU performance per dollar and the GPU performance per dollar, because this will really indicate to you the level of value that that laptop has. If I zoom in, you can kind of see a little bit better. Right now, the highest GPU performance per dollar is this Acer Nitro 5 with the 3070 Ti with $999. That is absolutely insane. 3070 Ti. QHD display on that too. So in terms of value right now, I think that's the value king. There's also the G14 right now. That's $799. That's probably the best deal out of any laptop that's a small portable laptop, though this display usually has some ghosting to it. Not sure if it's been fixed on this year's model, but when I tested it previous versions, this one had just a little bit of ghosting on the display. Wasn't awful, but it was noticeable for someone who's an esports gamer. Good enough for good enough for casual games though. Now, another highly competitive laptop would be the Lenovo Lock, the Pulse 15, both of which are on sale right now. The Asus Strix G16, which has a 4060, costs $130 more than the Acer Predator Helios 300. This is the specs for the Acer Predator Helios Neo 16 that we are doing today in this unboxing. So it's a $1199 i5-13500 HX, so HX being a little bit higher end processor than just the H series. Usually it's undervoltable as well, but I'm not sure about this i5. RTX 4050 in here should be a higher wattage, 16 gigs of DDR5, 512 gig SSD, and a full HD plus, meaning 16 by 10, supposed to be 400 nits, 100% sRGB. Now, we're going to be putting that to the test in our display testing today. With no sale, no additional price discounts or anything, you're getting $7.42 per dollar, performance per dollar, and $14.76 CPU performance per dollar, which is actually exceptionally good. But the GPU performance per dollar is good, but not necessarily amazing. At 5.73 pounds, this is going to be a somewhat portable, but also a little bit bulkier than some of the thinner, lighter laptops out there. Now, this is a 16-inch display, so 5.7 pounds for 16 inches is not bad. Let's move on. So what are the different options that you can get configured for the Neo 16? Now, at $1199, I'd probably wait for this thing to go on sale. It probably will go on sale. I'm guessing down to at least $1,100 or $1,000 sometime in the next few months here. But $1199 is an okay price, not a great price, in my opinion. Helios Neo 16, this has an i7, and it costs $150 more. It doesn't seem like it's worth the upgrade. I don't think. I thought this was supposed to have a 4060 in it, not a 4050. For $150, if it doesn't have a 4060, it has a 4050. This is not worth the upgrade. Don't get this version of the Neo 16. Looks like the user reviews right now are 4.7, which is very good for the Neo 16. So if you want to buy this, I did buy this from Best Buy. But this is not sponsored by Best Buy. This is all entirely me buying it and reviewing it myself. But if you do use the links in the description or the links in the description or the links on the sheet, it does help support me financially. So thank you very much if you do choose to use them. Now, here is the 4060 version. It costs $1579. That is too much, in my opinion, for a 4060. Not really. I don't think this would be worth the upgrade. You get an SSD upgrade, you get a display upgrade, 500 nits, 100% sRGB, very similar to the Legions. The CPU is a nice upgrade, but overall, I feel like this configuration should probably cost $1450, maybe $1500, but $1579 is too much. I would say don't pay more than $1,500 for this. Wait for it to go on sale. For this version, this is the Acer Predator Helios 16, not the Neo 16. But I just wanted to point out the 4080 options here. $2299 if you want to go up to a 4080, which if you can swing it, a 4080 is a huge upgrade. And this is one of the more inexpensive 4080s as well. So notice that the design is just a little bit different on the Helios 16 versus the Neo 16, though this is the Predator Helios Neo. Like, it's the naming convention is very messed up and very weird. So the Acer Nitro 5 3070 Ti, 1 terabyte SSD, QHD, 165 hertz, 300 nits, 100% DCI-P3 color gamut, supposedly $11 GPU performance per dollar. This obviously is not going to be as premium in some ways, but it should be quite nice overall for its performance per dollar. It's going to be more of a cheaper, more plasticky build. But if I had any #1 recommended laptop for getting the most performance per dollar today, this is it at $999. Certainly a better deal than what you're getting in the Predator Neo 16, at least if it's not on sale. Now, if this was on sale for $1,000, yeah, I'd still probably recommending the Acer Nitro 5 over the 3070 Ti. Or with the 3070 Ti here, just because it's so much value and performance for your money. Though I don't think this deal is only going to end 7 hours from now, so this is not going to be very relevant for people in the near future. You can see it's normally priced at $1329. Lenovo Lock 16. This is one of the going to be a bread and butter competitor against the Predator Neo 16, and this one comes with a 4060 and a Ryzen processor for the same money at $1199. In addition, the Full HD 144 hertz display is 350 nits rated, so it's not quite as good of a display, but overall this should be a very good competitor against the Neo 16, primarily because it's got the 4060 for the same money, which as you can see, gives you $9 of GPU performance per dollar compared to this one, which only gives you $742. So like I said, I would probably wait for this to go on sale down to probably $999 or maybe $1099 before picking up the Helios Neo 16. It will go on sale eventually, just knowing that over time. But that's kind of where I'm settling here, is that the price on this system really should be $999 or $1099 and not $1199. So the Asus Strix G16, this one has an i7 13650H RTX 4060, 16 gigs of DDR5, 512 gig SSD, and a full HD 165 hertz 100% sRGB display. This one provides excellent bang for the buck. It has a nice RGB implementation, a nice, more premium build quality compared to most of these laptops that we've been just comparing. I do think that this Strix G16 would be the one that I would pick over the Neo 16 right around this price point if it was my money. If not, I would pick this one probably if I'm looking for the most performance per dollar, but if I'm looking for a little more of a premium experience, this Strix G16 is probably the way I would go, at least right around $1,300. But if I've got $1,300 to spend, I'd probably go Strix G16 because I do love RGB and I do love the cooling solution that this has. It has excellent thermals, great speakers, high quality ports. Definitely recommend the Strix G16. I just did an unboxing review of this, so check my live stream history. You can see right here. If you go through my live stream history, you can find it quite easily. Here is the Predator Helios Neo 16. They've got to change the name. The naming is terrible. It should be just Acer Neo 16. That would be great. Maybe Predator Neo 16, but why does there need to be Helios Neo 16? Like, it makes absolutely no sense. You can see Predator Helios Neo 16. Why does it have to be 3 words long? I have no idea. We got the Predator logo here on the box. The back side is blank, pretty much empty. There is a carry handle here. Let's go ahead and open the power adapter box to start with. So here's the power adapter box. There's the laptop power adapter. Shabam. 230 watt power adapter. check that out after the fact, can pause it and read it. All right, and let's go ahead and grab the laptop, which you can see is inside of this rubber, or not rubber, but like styrofoam encasement. Quite a lot of papers that are just kind of loosely put into the box, which is kind of, thank you for joining the Predator team. As a member of this elite group, you'll enjoy the benefits of premium service for your Predator product for 1 year, limited warranty, 24/7 access to dedicated support team. Number is right here. The dedicated support, or go acer.com/predator chat. Planet9.gg. Looks like there's a bunch of stickers here that are individually peelable. There is an international traveler's warranty. There we go. Predator Helios Neo 16. Quick setup guide. Your Predator notebook tour. Not seeing anything too special here. The USBs are 3.2 Gen 2. Two of them, but one of them is Gen 1. Here's the laptop enclosure, and I do think this will protect the laptop pretty well. A nice like kind of felt wrapping around the outside of the laptop. And you can see we've got a metal top lid. It's quite a thick system. We got two USB-As right here on the right side. Unfortunately, these USB-As are on the right side. I kind of prefer the USB-As mainly to be on the left side, just because if you plug in a mouse, you know, you're gonna have that cable right in front of you, or any peripherals really, if you're right-handed. We got a Kensington lock port and a fan exhaust on the right side. On the rear, we have a power adapter port, HDMI 2.1, two Thunderbolt 4s, which is nice to see, and two more fan exhausts. Another fan exhaust over here on the right side, an Ethernet port that you have to pull down, and it looks like it's on the downward facing, which means you might have to lift the laptop to get this out, which is a little bit of a bummer. Then we got another USB-A, and then a micro SD card slot and a headset port. Now on the front, there are no ports, but that gives you an idea of the laptop thickness and size. It's not particularly thin, it's not particularly portable, but it's also not like a behemoth laptop or anything. And we have another kind of wrapping cover. I'm gonna go ahead and feel each of the keys just to make sure nothing, you know, I don't get any weird clickiness or a key that is like coming off or something. All of this feels good. That is quite a loud startup sound right there. Wow. Notice that the arrow keys have this kind of translucent texture around them. This power key has a translucent texture kind of around it. And WASD keys have this same translucence. So certain keys are gonna light up a bit more with the RGB. Feels like a plastic touchpad. I'm pretty sure it's a plastic touchpad, which means that it's really not as high quality of a touchpad as I would really love. It doesn't feel bad, but it does not feel very premium. That's a little bit disappointing, especially considering the price point of $1,200 on this machine. Like I said, I'd probably recommend waiting to buy this when it goes on sale, and I really do think it will. There is the metal top lid. The metal top lid does feel quite nice, and let's do a little torquing test. You can see some, I'm pulling on it pretty hard right here. We're definitely getting some bend here, but it's not bad in terms of build quality, not particularly great. The hinge itself, we got two hinge points here. These look like they'll probably hold over time, but I wouldn't say this is a particularly super strong hinge design, but not a bad one. And that's as far back as it can go. You can go almost all the way back. The hinge does feel quite firm in terms of its strength, which is nice to see. And it does kind of come together at the end. I don't think magnetically, but just the hinge tension and everything kind of just lets go right there. All you need to take this apart is a Phillips head screwdriver, but a smaller size Phillips head. Kind of looks like this whole back end comes up and out. Let's try to get this up. I'm gonna start with the back end. Oh wow, just using my thumb, got it started. Looks like we need to take this bottom thing off. It's kind of snapping up there. There we go. So that's kind of like the hinge cover. So you probably gotta take that off first before you can take the chassis off. Okay, we're gonna try doing all the way around this other side because the LAN port there kind of makes it hard to get it to come up. There we go, we got it off finally. That took a little while, definitely in the overall spectrum of things, a little bit on the harder side to disassemble. Shabam! So there's the internals. The internals are looking quite promising. So the battery pack right here is a 90 watt hour. So very close to the peak. 99 is the limit. We've got our killer 1650i Wi-Fi module here. We have our SSD. Yeah, I don't see a second M.2 slot, which is a little bit disappointing. I was hoping there would be a second one. Anyway, we have our two SODIMM slots right here and right here. And they're all wrapped in this kind of a black shrouding here, so I can't really see what exact models. So if you're going to want to upgrade this SSD drive, you're going to need to do a swap and replace, maybe like a clone and copy and replace if you want to use a new SSD for an upgrade. We've got a dedicated heat pipe. I believe this is going to be the GPU over here on the left and the CPU over here on the right. We've got a dedicated heat pipe to just the GPU, another dedicated heat pipe to just the GPU. And then we have two shared heat pipes between the CPU and the GPU. That's going to allow both fans to effectively cool either the CPU or the GPU when it's primarily a GPU only load or primarily a CPU only load. I really like that. Then I gotta say these fans as well are quite large and they should blow a lot of air, which is obviously the goal of some fans here. Now we have a dedicated CPU heat pipe as well as these metal plates that are going to go over the VRMs for the system. Now, if you're going to take this all apart and off, you're going to have to take this whole assembly off and undo all of these screws. It's going to be, looks like not too bad if you wanted to do it, but also not necessarily an easy repaste job if you wanted to do that. Now, this does come with liquid metal, according to Acer's website. So it will be very interesting to see how well the cooling solution works. You know, it's only got an i5 processor in here. I feel like the cooling solution that we have here is almost overkill, almost. I just wish there was another M.2 slot. I think that'd probably be my primary gripe. We do have our big speakers right here and right here. They don't look like super high quality speakers, but they are on the larger side overall with a bit of subwoofer built on them, it looks like. So for upgradability, I would give it a pretty good score, except the main downside is taking the bottom off. It's kind of a pain in the butt. So the extra M.2 slot is kind of hidden underneath this shroud right here. And it extends over here to the right. So if you want to put in another SSD, it's right here. So that's good. It's nice that it has that. Because I was afraid that it does not, but it does. So there's a lot of ventilation here for fan intakes. This is a plastic bottom. I gotta say that overall, there's not much height elevation for air going into the system underneath. That might be a problem. You might want to get something to raise up the back of this laptop. The power button is over here on the right side. We're gonna go ahead and get the laptop turned on. That is a very loud sound. I cannot imagine taking this into class and having that sound go off. This power adapter cable is very nice length, about 6 feet long on one side and about 6 feet long on the other side. That's nice. So starting in the bottom right, very solid, good feel. A bit of flex up here in the middle. Almost all laptops have a good amount of flex here. No flex here. Very little flex in the front middle. Going along the sides, a little bit of flex over here. A fair bit of flex in the back middle. Almost no flex over here. Right middle, very solid. So middle of the keyboard, quite a bit of flex. A bit more flex, I would say, than average, which is a little disappointing, but I guess that's kind of what you got to deal with, I guess. It feels like this is probably a metal keyboard deck. So in terms of materials, we have a metal top lid, a metal keyboard top deck, plastic keyboard, obviously, and a plastic underside. What is this? What is this over here? It's like another power button. I'm gonna go ahead and press it. So that is the Predator Sense button, which is basically like their Armory Crate or control software. So mode switch key, mode cycling, AC, quiet, balance, performance, turbo. On battery, it'll switch between balanced and eco mode, or you can make it turbo on or off with one click. Only supports AC plug-in. So we'll keep it to the mode cycling switch. Okay. This is a membrane plasticky keyboard. It feels just fine to type on, especially if you like membrane keyboards. I do overall like the layout. We got pretty close to a full-size number pad. You know, we have pause, play, and power button over here on the top right. And then we also have our normal number pad functions. Right here is the Predator Sense button. So this is like launching Armory Crate if you press that. Everything is backlit here. All the F1 through 12 keys are backlit. I like that. And the keyboard backlight is pretty easy to see even in a fairly bright environment. You can see that the keyboard is quite vibrant and looks really good, I think, in terms of an overall RGB keyboard implementation. The keyboard feel overall, I give it like a 7.5 or 8 out of 10. It's got a nice layout, nice key feel, not super high premium or anything like that. The keyboard backlight, everything's illuminated at least. The touchpad though, I would only give it like a 6.5 or 7 out of 10. It's just because it's more of a plasticky feel, but it is a larger touchpad. The click does feel pretty good. A little bit mushy maybe. A lot of bloatware. If you haven't noticed, there's a lot of bloatware that I just had to say no to. It's not awful. That's probably what I would say. That's the way I would describe it. Nice middle ground. It's not a super high-end camera for sure. So not great detail on the beard and the hair here. It'll work to get the job done on talking to your grandma and stuff like that. That's also not the most accurate colors, but the colors actually are looking a little better when I'm looking at the screen here than what is being shown in the camera. At least you got a webcam, right? That said, not an amazing webcam. It's all right. No Windows Hello either. 42.8 for our baseline. So DTS-X is your audio manipulator software. So if you want to change the speaker profiles, you've got automatic, music, voice, movies, RPG, strategy, shooter. That's interesting that there's 3 different ones for video games. There's also custom audio, bass boost, dialogue clarity, volume smoothing, treble enhance. Interesting. So that's custom audio. Let's try just the music. We're just gonna place Peter Spacey Roar and listen to it real quick. Okay. Okay, we're gonna leave it to automatic. Some of that was just downright weird sounding, with audio going up and down in weird ways, without me even changing stuff. So we're gonna leave it to automatic and see how it all sounds. And I gotta say, I'm not that impressed with the initial impressions of the speakers. It does not sound very good. The bass, the clarity, it all sounds a bit muddled. It's not that loud of volume. It's several decibels lower than what some of the other laptops have done. Okay, so not terrible mid clarity and high clarity, but the volume wasn't very loud. Okay, so these speakers are not particularly loud. The bass is pretty muddled and mediocre, and the mids and highs are not that clear, but at least with Faded A on Half-Life, it was decent-ish for when there was just mids going on. There you go. Speakers on this, I would give like 5.5 or 6 out of 10. Probably one of the worst speakers I've tested in a gaming laptop this year so far. All right, so here is the Predator Sense application. If we go to scenario, so home is just like this GPU information, temperatures information. Scenario is set to quiet, balanced, performance, and turbo, or can be set to those 4. Right now we're set to quiet. We are going to, I guess we could start in quiet. That's fine. So there is Time Spy running in the background right now already, and we are in quiet mode. Wow. Quiet mode is doing quite well. So you can see that quiet mode is doing 80 watts of power, 70 degrees on the GPU right now, 63 on the CPU, with 15 watts of power to that CPU. We have a good amount of wattage, plus our GPU is running at 2520. So our GPU is close to like the peak boost clocks for the stock clocks without any overclocking. It's able to run this whole thing at the same time not overheating, and I cannot hear the fans right now at all. We're gonna go ahead and see if there's any increase with the decibel meter, but I don't think there will be in quiet mode. So that is already very impressive thermally speaking. Yeah, I do not hear these fans at all. Very impressive thermals for this Neo 16. Oh, I hear the fans kicking up a little bit now. Boosting our decibels above 41.5 up to like 42 to 43 decibels in quiet mode. Very quiet fans overall. Very nice. Good job, Acer. You did a great job, at least on your quiet fans. Let's move to balanced mode. All right, so we are now doing 93 watts. So over 90 watts, we've bumped our watts, and our clock speed is still staying above 2500. Really didn't change much in terms of actual clock speed. I can hear the fans ramping up quite a bit more now, but realistically, they're not even getting that loud here in boost mode. And our temperatures have also remained right in line in the mid 70s, mid 60s for the CPU. So balanced mode hitting 46.5, 47 decibels. Very nice overall balance of fan noise and temperatures and performance. Let's move to performance mode. Notice the CPU is really cranking a lot more wattage, 33, 28, 29 watts to the CPU. That's boosting our CPU performance levels, but at the same time, it's also raising our temperatures on the CPU, and it's making the whole overall system fans run a little bit heavier, noisier. So performance mode basically is allowing that CPU to run at a higher level, which is going to be very useful in a lot of games. So 49.3 decibels, so not quite 50 decibels, even in performance mode. Let's switch it into turbo mode. So we are now doing 2655 on the GPU clock. So it automatically overclocked the GPU by about 120 clock speed on the core, and looks like 200 on the video memory as well. So now we're doing 8201 on the video memory. So that's definitely going to help performance at least a little bit, a few percentage points. Notice that our CPU is still doing the 30 watts. So the primary difference I'm seeing between turbo fan and performance fans is just that it comes with an overclock. Basically, the GPU is then overclocked, and the fans are also louder. I think our GPU temperature has gone down a little bit. We were doing like 75, I think. Now we're in the low 70s. So the overall wattage really hasn't gone up because the RTX 4050 doesn't really need much more than 90, 95 watts. Turbo mode right now is basically just applying an overclock, and at the same time, it is basically lowering our temperatures by increasing the fan noise. But our temperatures were not that bad to begin with. 53.8 decibels for our audio on the turbo fan mode. Let's see here. Is there a max fan option? Fan control. We're going to set to max. Are you ready? 64 decibels on max fans is extraordinarily loud for a laptop. That is almost as loud as the GT77 from MSI, but it's in a, this is in a much smaller laptop chassis size. It's impressive that they can get this loud and move this much air. Let's check out the thermals now that we're on max fans. 64 degrees now on the GPU, 63 degrees, 57 on the CPU. Just like literally like these are like desktop level temperatures now, but in a laptop form factor, which is just awesome to see. 98 of the sRGB color gamut, 78 and 80% of the P3 color gamuts. This does tend to underestimate, my tool tends to underestimate Adobe and P3 color gamut around 7-8%. So this is probably around like mid to high 80s for Adobe and P3 color gamut, which is really good actually for a display around this price point. Under brightness and contrast, 391 nits. That's phenomenal. Our contrast is really not that good though at 960 to 1. That's only about average in terms of contrast. But for brightness, this is far above average for your brightness in laptops around the $1,000 mark. So the display quality of this Neo 16 is certainly above average. So I use Process Lasso. I just use it in my benchmarking. Like you can use Process Lasso to boost your benchmark performance just by a little bit, but I use it to make sure that nothing interrupts the benchmark in the back, or set Cinebench to be like the top priority of the system to ensure that I have fair results across all the laptops that I test. We're gonna go back to turbo mode. Turbo fans, turbo and max fans are engaged. So this Intel Core i5 comes with 6 P cores, 8 E cores. I didn't think an i5 came with that many P cores and E cores, because that's more E core, P core combos than some of the i7s. So we're getting 4.2 gigahertz on all of the P cores, 3.5 on the E cores. That is excellent. 143 watts coming through the CPU, and our temperatures are still staying in check at 87 degrees. For an i5 in a laptop, doing 143 watts is insane. 17,666, 15,498. We must be losing wattage. We're down to 76 watts right now. 137 again. This is impressive actually. The amount of wattage that this processor is pulling through the CPU is very impressive. Why is the P cores only down to 2.4 gigahertz? The E cores are doing 3.5. How does that make sense? 14,202. That was very odd behavior, having the P cores drop like that. I wonder if that has to do with the i5 or what. Let's do a 10-minute test and see what we get. So P cores are doing over 4 gigahertz on average right now at the start. We're doing 140 watts. We're gonna go ahead and reset our clocks. We're going to get our average wattage and average clock speeds across the whole 10 minutes here. Look at our CPU temperatures, 71, 60. It's like right now averaging 72 degrees, averaging 79. Looks like we're power limit throttling down to 99 watts of power on the CPU package. That's a good amount of wattage for an i5. Like a very high amount of wattage. I don't see why we need to thermal throttle that low. Like why can't we thermal throttle? I don't know why we can't power limit throttle a bit higher than that. And you know, it may be possible to actually get this guy to go higher on the power. Yeah, look at our P cores. Our P cores are dropping to 2.4 gigahertz. I wonder if we could raise that power limit, we'd be able to really boost the performance levels. Looks like 2.4 gigahertz on the P cores, still 3.5 gigahertz on the E cores. Temperatures are phenomenal. 67 for the core, 71 for the package, 99 watts of power, peak 142 watts of power. Our CPU package has averaged 71 degrees. Core temperature 67 degrees. Our P cores have averaged 2.4 gigahertz. Our E cores are doing 3.5 gigahertz. Overall package power 99 watts. Average is 101, peak 142 for the initial minute and a half. So 13,987 for our 10-minute throttle test. That's a pretty good score for an i5 processor. I wish we could raise the power limits or have time to raise the power limits and test that out. But if you do end up getting this laptop, I would encourage you, if you want to push for more performance, use Intel XDU, try to raise the power limit and undervolt it if you can. We are in turbofan mode. We should have a small overclock applied. There you can see it. We are doing 2670 for our GPU boost clock. 54 degrees on the GPU, 41 degrees on the CPU. It is absurdly good temps. Our wattage is basically right around 90 watts of usage. Now we're only doing 90 watts. I'm pretty sure this thing would go to a higher wattage level if it needed to, but we're maxing that boost clock at 2670 with the default turbo OC on this RTX 4050, and it is just cruising. It's doing no problems, keeping the temperatures at under 60 degrees, 58 degrees right now on the GPU, 49 on the CPU, 50 on the CPU. Okay, so 8,935 for our graphics score. That is really good for an RTX 4050, right up there with the best of them for all the RTX 4050s. 14,456 is really, really good for an i5 CPU. Okay, so right now we are on high settings, doing 138 FPS. It's feeling really good. But you can see our 1% low right now is 99, 100 FPS. I gotta say, I can tell this is not super fluid in terms of like the way it looks to my eyes. And I would say that's probably because we have all these settings on high. Let's go ahead and set everything to low. Now our 1% low, we're averaging 202, 142 for our 1% low. So our 1% low just came up a lot. I'm seeing some screen tearing. I think this display just has a little bit of ghosting to it. You can kind of see it in the stream, right, chat? When I turn the camera, you can see it how the image kind of warps a little bit over the other image. Feels like there's just a slight bit of ghosting going on with this display. LCD overdrive. Okay, so I just enabled LCD overdrive. Maybe that will help with our refresh rate. Yeah, that helped remove a little bit of the ghosting. Just a tiny bit. This is not my top pick in terms of esports displays because it's just got a slight bit of ghosting to it. Okay, this feels a lot better, honestly, than the firing range. Oh, so close to killing that guy. This is feeling really good now that I'm actually in a match. It's amazing the FPS on this is actually much higher than what it was. You know, the speakers on this for actually playing games aren't too bad. Who the heck is shooting me? I missed like all of my shots. Graphics settings, full screen exclusive, 165 hertz, 1920 by 1200, all that's correct. DLSS is on quality, texture is set to high, everything else is set to low. Okay, so here we are at 93 FPS. Very smooth feeling performance here so far. Very nice. Looks like I had some teammates come to the same area as me, at least. Okay, so we're doing 85 FPS across the bridge, 53 for our 1% low. This is impressive for an RTX 4050 laptop. Temps are phenomenal. 94 FPS, 51 for a 1% low. Very playable, good experience in Warzone 2. All right, so here we are, CSGO benchmark. 300 to 400 FPS right now. Yeah, bouncing mainly between 300 to 400. Now we're in the 300s mainly. We do have smoke on the screen. Down to 68 FPS, I believe, was about as low as it got. The mid 60s maybe. That is pretty good. So seeing in the high 60s is very nice. Again, looks like it was like the 60s in the center of the smoke. Dip into 400 to 500 FPS range on average. 366 FPS. So once again, I'm seeing, even though we're 300 to 400 FPS, I'm still seeing a little bit of ghosting happening on the display. There's one terrorist left. Oh, guy holding the corner got me. Okay, so, and during that match, we were getting like 250 to 300 FPS almost the whole time. 1920 by 1200 resolution, DLSS on quality. Our graphic settings are set to ultra. We're seeing some pretty high CPU temps for the first time today. 84 degrees, or at least the first time I've noticed it. 81 degrees, 75. Now that we're not loading in the menus, I guess maybe it's a little cooler. But wow, I'm actually surprised at how slammed God of War makes the CPU on this system.
What did you find?
Tracks. Not deer. I'll keep looking.
59 FPS and 45 for our 1% low. Very smooth, very playable. Our boost clock, we are hitting high on our boost clock, high on our wattages in this game. Even though we're doing 57 watts, 51 watts to the CPU, we're still pulling 80 to 90 watts on the GPU. So it's nice to see that our GPU wattage is not being crushed when our CPU is also being engaged. And also our temps are still very good all around in the 60 to 70s most of the time. The CPU temp did get a little hot for a little while there though. We're gonna set ray tracing to ultra, frame generation to on, DLSS to quality. So far things are looking very smooth, very playable. Notice that our memory, six gigs of VRAM being utilized right now. That's good. You know, we have seen it go up to like the 8 before, and right now it's not. Well, we're getting some big FPS stutters right there. Big stutters again. Our 1% low is struggling, but I'd say 98% of the gameplay has been super fluid and smooth. Very nice. It's extremely nice except for those 2 hitches that we had in the bar. 69.7 FPS, so basically 70 FPS here. Here we are, we're in an actual mission now. So we're doing 75 FPS right now, 62 for a 1% low. Let's go ahead and shoot these guys and check out how the performance is. Oh yeah. Average 70 FPS, 55 for our 1% low. Very good, extremely playable, very good low for our FPS overall, and for our 1% lows, certainly super playable. If you wanted to just turn off ray tracing, right? Turn off ray tracing, set everything to ultra, quality. Let's just go to balanced. Now look at us. We're doing 125 FPS in Cyberpunk on ultra. No ray tracing. The game still looks really good. Isn't that insane? We need to change it from FSR to DLSS on quality. Frame generation is enabled. Looks like it was using my settings that I was using on the Ally. So everything's going to be on ultra. We want textures to be on low though, because the textures are going to be insane. Ray tracing is currently set to off. This is great. 112 FPS, 40 for our 1% low. We're not stuttering hardly at all. Yeah, in general, this is a great game to play with ray tracing disabled. 58 degrees, 61 degrees. Really good temperatures. And this is the most demanding part of this game. It is just going to get better from here, basically. All right, so we're going to turn ray tracing on, and you'll see the FPS tank into the dirt once again. Okay, so we've enabled ray tracing. We're going from 110 FPS approximately down to 75, and our 1% low is also dropped down to only 24. Once again, I am seeing just a little bit of ghosting on the display. It's not awful, but it is something that if you're someone who's very sensitive to it, will notice. Wow. The 1% low is doing really good now that we ran through the city once. Okay, 70 for our average, 32 for our 1% low. I do want to point out that we are getting some lower end textures even right here in front of me. These are some lower end textures. If we go to higher level textures, we will see better detail here. So now we're seeing a bit more detail on these little, getting better detail. Like look at that detail. I was going to show you another couple of examples going to higher textures, but the game crashed. So set to ultra quality preset, DLSS mode to quality, 1920 by 1200 resolution. Wow, the temps are so good in this game. 75 to 82 range. Notice how much watts we're pulling through the CPU. 80 watts, 60 to 80 watts of power, 87 watts of power to the CPU. Very good. GPU pulling 73 watts, 63 degrees on the GPU is phenomenal, 70 on the CPU, staying so cool overall. Fan control will set to auto. We'll go to quiet mode. They're so dang quiet. Our performance is still pretty dang good considering we're quiet now. 70 FPS, 27 for a 1% low, 35 watts to the CPU, 58 to the GPU. That's a good amount of wattage to the CPU and GPU put together. And our temps are still good, 65, 66. Woo. Oh, now our FPS is coming down, 55. Let's go to turbo mode. Look at our CPU wattage is pulling much higher. Temps are going up. Fans are coming up, so be much louder. Our 1% low as we turn around is much better again. Let's try turning on max fans, see if it gets much louder. So turbo is basically putting the fans to maximum already. Very good all around performance. 85 FPS on average, 23 for a 1% low. It's a bit low on our 1%, but other than that, very good. The 1% low is doing really good at 45, though it wasn't, we did have some little bit of dips when we were facing the other way. 74 FPS on average, 48 for a 1% low. Excellent, truly excellent. DLSS is set to quality. For our graphics, we are going to set to ultra settings, and then we're going to set textures down to, medium should be good. We're getting 86 FPS on average, 72 for a 1% low. Phenomenal. Really good temps. Really good FPS, considering we're on ultra settings with medium textures. Averaging 95 FPS, 76 for a 1% low. That is so good. So 84 FPS, 60 for our 1% low. Really phenomenal overall experience in Last of Us. So right now doing 72 FPS. So 1920 by 1200. Averaging 70 something FPS, perfectly playable, super smooth. Man, the temps in this laptop are just so good. 59 degrees on the GPU, 62 on the CPU. Ooh, man, that is awesome. I really appreciate how this GPU basically stays lockstep at max clock speed. 81 FPS in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, that's phenomenal. Ray Tracing Ultra. DLSS is set to quality. 1920 by 1200 frame generation is enabled. Looks like all of our settings are already preset to be the correct ones. 54 FPS right now. Obviously, perfectly playable. All we gotta do is turn off ray tracing. Boom. Now we're running everything ultra settings with no ray tracing, and we're doing like 100 FPS. This is how I would want to play the game if I was playing on this system, and it would be a perfect, absolutely perfect experience. Let's flip ray tracing back on. Everything set to high settings, ultra ray tracing, DLSS on quality, frame generation enabled. See what we get. This is the same test I do every time in The Witcher 3, so I can do some comparisons. Okay, so 62 FPS, 47 for our 1% lows. Very, very good performance. Again, if I was playing this game on this laptop, I would just go in here and turn off ray tracing. Juice to the gills, 100 FPS in The Witcher 3. Just a phenomenal experience all around. Value comparison, this laptop versus the competition. Arguably the best temperatures when under max fans of any of the 4050, 4060 laptops that we've tested. The Strix G16 was right up there with it, very closely matching the temperatures, but I would say this was just a little bit better temperature wise. In terms of value, this guy is costing more than the Lenovo Lock. It's costing more than the Nitro 5 series. It's costing more than some of the like the HP Omen 16 when there's on sale. Like this thing at $1199 is a bit of a premium price for an RTX 4050, but you do get 16 gigs of fast RAM. You do get a much brighter display. 400 nits, or we measured 391 nits of brightness on the display, and it's a fairly high color gamut display. It's a 16 by 10 aspect ratio display, if that's important to you. This guy really delivers value in the sense that it's optimized well, it's got excellent thermals, and the display is awesome. It's one of the better displays that you can possibly get in this price segment. And it's very important to note that the display upgrade may be worth at least $100 in value compared to the competition, especially the MSI laptops that have a terrible display. But even compared to the Asus Strix G16, which only like a 300 nit display, this guy's 100 nits brighter. That's noticeable. That's going to be noticeable and make this laptop, I think, have a little more value to it. Quality control, this thing is high quality, but it's a lot of plastic. It's kind of a plasticky feel to the laptop. Maybe it's hard, honestly, it's hard to tell if this is plastic or metal, but I think this is plastic. Build quality on this is not as good as like the Strix G16 or Zephyrus G16, but it's close. It's a little better than the cheapest laptops out there. The keyboard and mouse are good, not great. Plastic touchpad, doesn't slide as smoothly, has decent click. Definitely more of a budgety build in terms of keyboard and trackpad, but the layout of the keyboard is good. The backlighting is good. You got 4-zone RGB backlighting. It's very nice. It'll work well for typing, and it's got nice functionality with volume, pause, play. The home and delete keys, page up, page down, those are on the number pad. Those are not ideally placed. If you need to press home and end a lot, or page up, page down, that might be a drawback here. Everything is backlit, including the secondary functions on the keys, which I do like that. That's a thumbs up. That's something the Strix G16 does not have. The Strix G16 backlighting is a bit more wishy-washy in terms of quality of backlighting. The webcam was meh. Was not as bad. It's not the worst quality webcam, but it was not the best. Speakers were some of the worst we have tested. I have tested all year long. The bass was muddled. The mids, not that amazing. And the overall volume, not that loud. It'll work. It'll work just fine though. Like it's kind of like your average gaming laptop from like, more budgety gaming laptop speakers. Overall, I give the speakers like a 6 out of 10 rating. Not super loud, not super high quality. Not the kind of thing I would be like, yeah, I can't wait to pump up the bass, play my music on this and fill my room with audio. Like my phone would have better speakers than this. My iPhone 14 has better speakers than this for sure. So just give you an example. It's going to be good for Photoshop. It's going to be good for video, good enough for video editing. The biggest problem I have with the display is that I don't know if G-Sync isn't working properly, or maybe the display, there's just a decent amount of ghosting happening on this display. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a delayed response time is the issue because of the new 16 by 10 panel options and the higher brightness. I was noticing ghosting in almost every game we played, at least a little bit. I just checked the Windows display resolution and advanced settings, and we were set to 60 Hertz on the response rate. That's why we were getting kind of the ghosting jagginess. Now that I go to 165, I think if I were to play games, we should have perfect response rate. Fan noise testing with decimal meter. If you set this thing to quiet or balanced mode, it is juicy. It is so quiet and good performance with good temperature still. 2 giant thumbs up for fan noise with thermals being combined together. If you set this to balance mode or quiet mode, you're going to have good performance in games and a very quiet all-around system, which I think a lot of people are looking for these days. I just wish the speaker system was a great pair to that, because if you have low fan noise but mediocre speakers, it's still harder to enjoy the speaker quality though. Cinebench R23, only 14,000. That is a bit low. A lot of laptops in the $1,200 to $1,400 range are doing 18 to 20,000 for their Cinebench R23 scores. And I think this laptop could get there if you raise the power limit to 140 watts using Intel XTU, because we were seeing insane levels of power, 144 watts being sustained in this i5 processor, which is just so crazy. 6P cores, 8 E cores, 14 overall cores, 20 threads in this processor, which is crazy for an i5 processor because it's an HX processor. This is so much better now that we are in 165 hertz refresh rate on the display. Yes, it was the 60 hertz response rate. That was the reason why we were running into a little ghosting. This is perfect for esports now, in my opinion. No issues whatsoever in the esports department. And really good temperatures all around. In all of these games, especially at max fans. Now, if you're not at max fans, we were still getting pretty good performance, but you know, the performance noticeably went down, degraded. That if you want to run this thing in quiet mode, you can, but I would probably just put it in balanced mode where the fans are just a little bit audible and you're still getting like 80 to 90% of the performance in that mode. If you really want to take performance to the next level, set it to balanced mode and then undervolt and overclock the GPU. I showed how to do that in the Zephyrus G14 undervolting overclocking guide I did a couple days ago, or like about 5 or 6 days ago. No stuttering in any of the games today. The 1% lows in every single game we tested was good, which I cannot say that about all the RTX 4050 laptops I've tested. There's been some that have struggled in Cyberpunk, for example, or in Hogwarts. And this laptop, for some reason, did really well in all of them. With this laptop, there's almost nothing that I can complain about in terms of gaming performance at 1920 by 1200 resolution on ultra settings. In all the games we tested, it was just a great all-around experience. If you spend more money, you'll get a little bit more performance. Yes, you get a 4060, you get a 4070, you go up to a 4080, 4090, you'll just be cranking the FPS like overkill at 1200p resolution. If you want to go to QHD resolution, that's when I really recommend an upgrade to like a higher tier GPU for sure. Now, a 4060, 4070 could be worth the upgrade if it's only $150 to $200, but clearly the RTX 4050 in this Neo 16 is tuned right and is performing well. All the drivers have come together to give a phenomenal gaming experience for the money. Even at $1,200, I'm just thinking this system is optimized, great display. The main downsides with this machine compared to something like the Zephyrus G16, this thing is chunkier. It's bigger than the G16. If you compare this to the Strix G16, the Strix G16 is just cooler looking and more premium looking with the RGB implementation and a glass touchpad on both of those laptops. The plastic touchpad really is a bummer, in my opinion, if you're after a more premium experience. Can I recommend the Acer Predator Helios Neo 16? Yes. Absolutely. At $1,200, given the display quality and how well optimized the system is, I think I can recommend it at the full $1,200 price point, even when compared to the competition out there. There are other laptops with 4060s for $1,200, and most likely you're going to get more FPS out of those laptops. But those laptops probably don't have as nice of a display and probably aren't as optimized, thermally speaking. Not going to run as cool as this thing, but they'll probably have better touchpad and they'll probably have better speakers, maybe even a better webcam. So those are your trade-offs you're getting with the Neo 16. I think at $1,200, it's an okay deal. You can definitely buy it and not feel bad about it. $1,100 if it goes on sale, it's just a really great deal. At $1,000, it's just going to be a really, really great deal. The ports on this being 2 Thunderbolt 4s, 3 USB-As, a micro SD card slot. I mean, this thing's got a lot of ports, and they're high-quality ports as well. They did not skimp on the ports on this thing. The Acer Predator Helios Neo 16, 2 giant thumbs up. Just wait for a sale if you want to get the best deal possible. Otherwise, it's still a pretty good deal at $11.99. Thanks so much. I'll see you in the next one.